Everybody is wondering why President Trump signed an executive order ensuring what he called domestic production of elemental phosphorus and glyphosate-based herbicides. Now, I am of the opinion that he is working with an alliance that is helping mankind free itself from a dark agenda supported by a matrix created by sick elite people who practice ritualistic behavior and hate Jesus Christ. So far, Trump has acted consistent with what Anons were told was the plan many years ago. Even though it may not appear in our best interest at the moment, it has all been foretold, but this one wasn't on my bingo card. So is this industry pressure, or is there a reason why this move is in the best interest of Americans? Trump didn't actually make any claims that these chemicals were safe, only that they were necessary, which is pretty interesting. He actually used a law from way back in 1950 called the Defense Production Act to do this. That act gives the president the authority to tell private industries to produce substances that have been deemed critical to our national defense. So how in the world could these poisons be critical for national defense? As most of us probably know, the main use for these substances is to spray harmful chemicals on our food and vegetation. Most notably, glyphosate is the active component in the popular weed killer called Roundup, which has paid out a lot in class action suit damages for causing lymphoma, which, by the way, my dad had twice. So far, $11 billion in settlements have been paid over 100,000 lawsuits. There's also a current proposed settlement for another $7.25 billion, and today, about 61,000 lawsuits are still open, and new lawsuits just keep getting filed. There's also a case sitting at the Supreme Court right now to decide whether federal pesticide laws preempt state law, which call for strong cancer warnings on labeling. This case hinges on the fact that several states are requiring cancer warnings on glyphosate products that isn't required federally. It's always been my understanding that states could enact stricter laws than the federal government, but not weaker laws. And if that's the case, how in the heck are these states getting away with establishing sanctuary cities? Better still, can this decision impact the legality of sanctuary cities? Well, we're gonna sort this all out in this video, but please don't forget to hit that like button, share the video with your friends. And actually, this video will benefit everyone. Subscribe to the channel to help me grow it. And if you are looking for a relaxing getaway that will quiet the noise inside, amplify your healing, and leave you truly renewed, please check out our April Panama City Beach event at xpharmacon.com. So first we must go directly to the order rather than the media's version of it. As with all Trump executive orders, it's posted on the White House webpage, and I'll link it in the description of this video. It's important to notice that this order is not only for glyphosates, it's also for elemental phosphorus, which is critical for everything from lithium batteries to semiconductors and solar cells. And what's worse, there's only one manufacturer of both elemental phosphorus and glyphosates in the United States, and that is Bayer, which bought out Monsanto in 2018, 2 years into the Trump administration. Beginning around 2015 to 2017, agriculture and chemical companies began consolidating. At the time, Monsanto had become the dominant company in genetically engineered crop seeds, especially corn, soybeans, and cotton. Bayer had the glyphosate chemicals, and Monsanto had the GMO crops that could handle it, and the birth of genetically modified seed combined with glyphosates, herbicides, and pesticides. Combine that with the extreme vulnerability of Monsanto after the numerous lawsuits and global protests against GMO food. Bayer is also a longtime heavy hitter in the pharmaceutical industry, both prescription and over-the-counter. So now they are highly powerful in big pharma, the food industry, and the pesticide industry. What a combination that makes. But my question is, how are the glyphosates critical to national security? Well, the order states that in order to maintain national security, we must maintain the security of the food supply. and I can't disagree with that after what we've seen. And that ties into the same issue as the elemental phosphorus, when one company controls one of the most widely used pesticides. Coincidentally, GMO mosquitoes have been studied and released in numerous cities in the US, and I can personally tell you that last year, the mosquitoes in South Florida were like none I've seen. The city was spraying and dusting us multiple times a week, and it took months to get rid of them. So access to pesticides can also be considered as critical to our protection should some crazy person unleash some Frankenstein insects on us. On the surface, there appears to be no direct connection between Monsanto or Bayer and these GMO mosquitoes, but isn't it something that Bayer acquired Oxitec, the main developer of GMO mosquitoes? They released them in the Florida Keys, which makes me think that our robo-mosquitoes migrated from that release. So now Bayer controls GMO mosquitoes and the insecticides that kill them, along with strategic exclusivity in elemental phosphorus production. It's not that we don't have plenty of phosphate rock mining. We've got plenty, but conversion of phosphate rock into elemental phosphorus requires a specialized high-temperature process that very few facilities in the world can run. And the only U.S. facility currently doing this at scale is Monsanto's former Soda Springs facility, now being operated by Bayer. If we lost the ability to convert phosphate rock into elemental phosphorus, critical supply chains in defense, agriculture, electronics, and specialty chemicals would be disrupted. So this executive order regarding glyphosates appears to be designed to free us from big corporate control, specifically Monsanto and its new frontman, Bayer. I don't know about you, but after learning how these people could potentially capture the market on effective pesticides and then unleash resistant GMO mosquitoes on us, I feel pretty good about Trump encouraging other additional sources of this element that we apparently need to keep our world running. Regarding an outright ban on glyphosates, that would be something that comes from EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. When the pesticides involve residues on our food, it's the Department of Agriculture and the FDA that test and enforce existing permissible amounts, but it's the EPA which determines how much can be in our food. And in my opinion, this needs to change. More than likely, high levels will need to be found, and RFK Jr. is gonna have to pressure to get it banned. Kennedy has said many times that glyphosate is toxic and shouldn't be in the food supply. He also questions whether there is any level that is safe on our food, and he is a proponent of regenerative and less chemical-dependent agriculture. In spite of these views, he's backed President Trump's recent order on glyphosates, saying that domestic production of glyphosate precursors and herbicides are critical because U.S. food production could be heavily disrupted if supplies from abroad were cut off. So there you have it, guys. This order is not a move to protect Monsanto or pesticides. It appears that it's a move to take exclusivity away from the new Monsanto, operating under the name Bayer, and to establish additional manufacturers so that we aren't dependent on Bayer and foreign sources of the chemicals until alternative methods of insect control are discovered.